Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Beyond Grit with Robert Young. I appreciate you taking the time to listen in on another great conversation. So my new mission is to spread a little daily love to my kids and my wife. I started sending them messages just to instill a little self-growth and gratitude and love every day. You know, sometimes we need to be reminded to take time for ourselves. Forgive ourselves. If we messed up during the week, remind us that we were loved, or help us see the pleasure in tough decisions. You know, what's that outcome? We need support. We need to believe in us, and we need each other to get through the daily grind. My guest this week is Noah Gully. Noah is a local barber and has his own business called Gully and Company, Barbering and Aesthetics, located in Charlotte. You know, I'm going to read a post from his Instagram, the post that he did when he opened his business. I really did it through the ups and downs, the good times and the bad. I remember days when I was broke, I didn't have a dollar to my name, job to job, couches to air mattresses. The only thing that stayed consistent was my dream and vision and my ambition to create a better life, not only for myself, but for those around me. Today, I'm proud to announce I have opened Gully and Company Barbering and Aesthetics, in which I will be offering an array of advanced barbering and aesthetics services. I've always wanted to be a business owner, but I never knew it would come at 24 years old. I've continuously spread positive energy and love in my community, and I believe this is the energy coming full circle. I'm beyond thankful for my family, friends, and clients who have supported me and motivated me all the way. Without y'all, this would be impossible. Sometimes in life, there's a million ways to go. If you don't know where you're going, but when you manifest and work hard for your goals and your dreams and stick to your path, you will always get to where you're going. Not everyone in this life gets the same privileges or opportunities, but I promise if you do right by those around you, keep a positive mindset, work hard, spread the love, and this life will take you anywhere you want it to. I'm beyond blessed and thankful, and I hope I inspire someone to take the best risk possible. Invest in yourself. Peace. Boom. That's it in a nutshell. He's 25 years old, and he amazed me. I loved it. So get your coffee, your hot tea, sit back and enjoy. I'll see you next week. Hey, Noah, how are you?
How you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for taking time out of your busy day to sit down and have a little chat with me.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
So Noah is, he's a barber and owns his own business right here in Charlotte. And give me a little background and tell me what you're doing right now.
Okay. So right now, yesterday, I actually just hit my milestone of 4 years of being a licensed barber. So
Nice.
I've been cutting in the South Charlotte area for about 3.5 years now. And just in the past 8 months, actually, I opened up my own suite. So I basically, have a one-man barber shop, a one-man suite that perform my work in.
Now, when you talk about opening up a suite, is that in one of those areas where there are other barbers and stylists and stuff in one building and you've got your own little spot?
Correct. So it's like a large building, and I basically have like probably a 250 square foot room
Okay.
in one big building. So yeah, we have barbers, hairstylists, people who do esthetician work, massages, different stuff like that.
That's a big accomplishment to get out. Do you like it being by yourself outside
So,
of the shop?
so going from like being in a bigger shop to being by myself, it has been quite a change. But I enjoy it because I have good relationships with all my clients and whatnot. I say for now it's great for me, but it just like you said, it's just a milestone. So there's a whole lot more to come.
What got you involved in barbering? Was it something you've always wanted to do?
So originally barbering came to my mind back in 2014. I had just graduated high school and I was 18. My daughter was on the way and I had just found out that I was about to have a kid. So I never really had too good of a relationship with my father. However, when I was becoming a man, turning 18, and I'm like, I feel like I need some guidance from my dad. Like I don't really know him like that. I don't know what he's about or what kind of advice he could give me at this point in my life. So I basically just decided to go visit him. Him and my mom are from Fort Dodge, Iowa, just a real small town. So I basically just went to visit him, and it was my first time seeing him in probably 5 or 6 years. And he was just like, son, what are you gonna do? Like, you have a daughter on the way. And I was like, I really didn't have a plan. And my uncle is actually a very prominent barber out there in Des Moines, Iowa. He owns a couple barber shops, and he's traveled all around the country and competed in shows, and he's cut celebrities, and he's made a good living for himself. So I guess growing up and going to visit him at the barber shop over the years and just seeing like the type of money that the barbers made and the type of cars that they drove and the type of schedules that they had, it was just like I knew I always wanted to, be an entrepreneur and work for myself. So when my dad suggested that, it was just like, all right, like I'll check it out.
Did you kind of fall in love with it after you started doing it?
I did. So it was a big sacrifice for me. My daughter and her mom were supposed to come out to Iowa because I decided to go out to Iowa to start my school, and they were supposed to come, but they never did. So I kind of just ended up out there 18 years old, with my dad who I didn't really know, and I started barber school, but it was something that I quickly, fell in love with and made big sacrifices to even start. So it was quite a journey.
So were you originally in the Charlotte area and then you went up to Iowa and did your training and then came back here?
Right. So I was actually born and raised in Charlotte, and
Okay.
decided to just kind of, fly out there with a suitcase with as much stuff as I could pack. And yeah, I ended up staying out there for 6 months. I didn't actually complete the program out there. Kind of ran into some problems with my dad and some demons that he was fighting and some generational curses he was trying to break. So it didn't really work out well for us, and I did have to end up coming back to Charlotte after about 6 months. I was halfway through with the program when I came back.
Okay. Now, if people don't know, there are a lot of hours involved in barbering. Now, with barbering, is it still you guys have more hours than going to cosmetology school, don't you?
Well, cosmetology, we have 28 more hours, but I always
Okay.
compare it to it's crazy that barbers have about double the hours that it takes to become a police officer. That's kind of what all our barbers always say.
Yeah, tell people how many hours so it's not only the hours that you have to be in school, but then you have to go and work in the shop too.
Right.
So what does it
So
involve to get your barber license?
so basically it's about the tuition is about 16 to $20,000. It's a program of 1,528 hours in North Carolina. So that can last anywhere if you're going part-time to full-time, anywhere from like 10 to 14 months or 11 to 14 months. And so pretty much after you finish your barber school, then you get a permit to work paper. And with this permit to work, then you're eligible to go work in a shop for 90 days. But within that 90 days, you have to complete your state board. So when you do state board, you pretty much drive up to Raleigh, you take a 120 question test, you take a live model, and you do a straight razor shave and a haircut on them. And then once you pass that, you get your apprenticeship license. When you have your apprenticeship license, you can't own a shop. You can't work on your own like I'm doing now. You have to work under somebody for 1 year. So after you work under somebody for 1 year, then you go and you do the same process. You don't have to take the written test. You just take the model up to Raleigh, do the straight razor shave and the haircut, and then you have your what they call as a register or a master license. And with that, you can open your own shop. You can, work for yourself, the whole nine.
Yeah. I mean, it's no small task to do that. And the only reason I kind of know is I love barbering. I like the whole business of it.
Right.
I love it. And I kind of looked into it about 5 years ago. And there aren't a lot of barbering schools here in Charlotte. There used to be, but now they've kind of closed down. Where did you end up finishing?
So I finished school at No Grease Barber
Okay.
School. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's
one of
one of
the
them that's been around and stayed.
yeah, they've been around for over 25 years now. And it was crazy because after I came back from Iowa, then I was like, all right, well, I'm just gonna get enrolled in school in Charlotte. So then I enrolled in school in Charlotte, but at this small time, No Grease had went under a bigger school, which was called Park West, and basically they did that for financial aid access and different, just access to more capital for bigger schools, better schools, more equipment, stuff like that. So basically when I came back out here to Charlotte and got back into the school, they closed down Park West. They ended up going bankrupt and then closed down. So then there was another year that passed by that I didn't get my license. So it was definitely like an uphill battle.
Yeah. What were you doing in the meantime?
So in the meantime, I ended up, well, I was always good with photography, so I would do maybe proms or events or baby showers, and I was always taking photos. And then I also worked for a general contracting company for about a year, and then like an electrical company for another about a year, 6 months, something like that. So I
Just
got into
grinding,
yeah,
grinding and doing it.
just grinding. That's all I ever knew. Is like since I was 13, I'll be out there mowing yards or raking leaves or doing some chores for somebody or selling some shoes or so I knew it anyway I was gonna get it, but I knew I wanted to be a barber because it just I saw like how much it could provide for me and my family.
Well, that's good to know the driving force behind it because you could have moved back and said, this isn't going to happen.
Right.
But you kind of had that drive, that vision. And so you grew up here in Charlotte.
Born and
You
raised.
have any siblings?
I do. So on my mom's side, I have a little brother, who we actually grew up like in the same house, having the same mom. So he's 15 years old, and he goes to Butler here in Charlotte. And
Okay.
then I have on my dad's side, I have three brothers, 18, and two twins that are 15. They're here in Charlotte. And then I have an older sister who's 33, and she lives in San Antonio. And then I have a sister that's 18. She lives in West Virginia. So
Okay.
on my dad's side, there's six of us.
Wow. So not having, a dad, right? Or a male figure or a dad figure there next to you day in, day out. Did you have a mentor or did you have somebody that you looked up to help you along?
My mom, like, although I didn't have my dad around, my mom, she always did a great job, one, at raising me herself, but two, really embodying the quote, like, it takes a community to raise a child, you know what I mean? So I always like had great male mentors ever since I was a kid. I have different points of my life. I have different, mentors that I can think back on or that I still am in contact with today, whether it be with business or school or just life in general. I have, so many great male mentors that really helped me. It wasn't always easy. I wouldn't consider myself a troubled child, but when I went back to my high school a couple years ago and kind of met with a lot of my teachers that, I hadn't been back to my high school in 4 years, they were like, you weren't really troubled, but you were just kind of ahead of your time, or you were kind of just were bored in school. You were very smart, you were bored, and you just wanted to, go against the grain, which is something I feel like I just always had that entrepreneur bug in me that kind of like made me look at school or made me, just flock to mentors over school or over teachers or I kind of just wanted that, that real life mindset,
Right.
you know what I mean?
You wanted to get out there and start doing it,
Right.
which is good. Did you do any sports? Did you play sports growing up?
So I played basketball up until 8th grade, and then I didn't make the team in 7th or 8th grade. The teacher told, or the coach told me, like, you have to grow 12 inches and come back next year, something like, and it broke my heart, man. And I was just like so dedicated to basketball, but I was so small and I didn't really hit my growth spurt to my senior year. So my freshman year, I was a varsity wrestler. And then my 10th grade year, I played golf. And then still with my love of basketball, my best friend was the point guard at the time. Then my 11th and 12th grade year, I became like the basketball statistician and like manager and stuff like that.
Okay. So
Yeah,
if you weren't gonna play it, you were gonna be involved in it.
right. I was definitely involved with it. I felt like you just got good lessons in sports and especially in basketball.
That's great. So I was looking at your list of topics that you wanted to discuss, and we'll talk about being an entrepreneur. were you scared to go off on your own and start your own thing, or was that just a natural progression for you?
I can't say that I didn't have second guesses or didn't have doubts because I think we all do, right? But
Mhm.
I feel like in my mind, I always just held myself at a high standard. And even just listening to how other people view me or what they thought about me growing up, I kind of feel like I was destined to be a business owner, or kind of like, it's not really, it doesn't come as a surprise that, I did choose the leap and take, because I've always kind of been a leader and I've always, like I said, I always wanted to try different things and I wasn't scared to fail. I did, a clothing line and I did multi level marketing and I did so many different things when I was younger that I feel like as like now it's like I'd rather take the risk and possibly fail at 25 years old than to wait another 5 years or another 10 years. And then then I'm even got less time. So right now I feel like time is just on my side. And I feel like I'm at a point to where if I lost it all today, I feel like I could still rebuild it. But I feel like as you progress in your entrepreneurship and as you have whether it's more capital or more clients or more inventory or whatever, it kind of gets you get more nervous because you got more to lose and you get more scared of going back to where you started.
Yeah, I've heard that a lot where people, once you start building stuff up, and it's for me too, you're scared to lose it,
Right.
and then there's some people that will build it up and boom, invest it and do whatever with it. And there's always that risk as an entrepreneur in going
Right.
into it. And you just have to kind of understand it and know it's there and enjoy it. And some people, have a vision. Some people have, want to stay in a shop, a single person and do their thing every day. And other people have this vision of I want to own my own shop and I want to have
Right.
this many chairs. Where do you see yourself? Like, what's your big picture?
I feel like oftentimes, which is something that I've struggled with, is just focusing on one thing instead of spreading myself out so thin. Like get one thing rolling, and then I can hop over to that next thing. But I feel like with the past 4 years, I've done that with barbering, and it's really paid off. So right now, I'm just my short term vision would be to just duplicate what I did last year because I had a very good year, very successful in my book, and just continuous growth. However, in the future with the barbering, I would kind of like to not I wouldn't say imitate, but kind of put my own sauce on it or whatever you want to call it, to doing what like No Grease has. They have, shops around Charlotte in all the malls. They have shops in Atlanta, shops in South Carolina, Greensboro, you know what I mean? So it's just like building a successful business that can then duplicate itself and multiply and then then get into schools, barber schools, stuff like that. So just building like a barber empire, I guess you could say.
I like the fact that, with the barber shops that they can be unique to the owner, right?
Right.
They're not just cookie cutter places. They're like, this is my spot. It's
Yeah.
almost like the barber shop man cave. Bring it down to there. But that's great. I like that. What do you do outside of barbering? I see you like travel, and what are you doing as a youth advocate?
Outside of barbering, really, man, I'm just kind of like been so immersed in work and just health. So really, I'll just be going to the gym and then going to work, and then vice versa. You know what I mean? I just kind of come home and chill. But in my free time, in my spare time, I'll usually be with my fiance. We like to travel. We like to go on day trips or go have Sunday fun days. Have my daughter some weekends, so I love to hang out with her and take her to do fun things. I love hanging out with my mom and my brother and kind of just hanging out with family. I'm a real family dude. But yeah, as far as the youth goes, I feel like every day I get a chance to do that, which is something I love about barbering. I've done a lot of things like in the community where I did like a back to school drive and raised hundreds of supplies for kids. I've done, like homeless drives and stuff. But after working with homeless, it was a great experience. But I feel like it was more important for me to focus on the youth and to focus on how can we stop this from happening, or how can we plant these good seeds in the youth, let them know that, this is the direction you want to go, not this way, or whatever you want to call it. So 2 years ago, I was working with Tuckasegee. It was right before the pandemic. I was working with Tuckasegee Elementary. If you don't know, that's one of kind of an underprivileged school in Charlotte. It's a Title I school. They got a lot of bad situations there. So I put together a group of about 10 barbers, and we went up to Tuckasegee and we cut like 20 or 25 kids who really didn't have access to haircuts. And I kind of wanted to start a nonprofit around that, but then COVID hit. So now it's just
Okay.
kind of, they won't really allow us in the schools now. So it's kind of just like a standstill as far as that comes. But like I said, I cut kids every day, and I build relationships with these kids, and I talk to them, like men, like young men, and just let them know, how important it is to be a good person for one. That's where a lot of it starts. But how important hard work is, and having ideas, and getting an education, and taking risk, and different things like that.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. So many people, me included, they need that person that will show them the way or believes in them
Right.
and that you can do this. Yeah, you've got to have that personal grit and determination and where you want to go. But having somebody there to help you show you the way, especially for young kids, and when they're in tough situations, to say like, do this, be like this, and show them by example, like you can succeed. So no, I think that's great.
Sometimes I get caught up and I'm like, dang, well, I remember when I was a kid, I didn't listen to anybody. You know what I mean? It's like, how do I know these kids are listening to me? What if it's just going in one ear and out the other? But then, like I was just telling you earlier, like I have mentors from all ages of my life that each one of them left something with me, whether I used it that day or it came back 10 years later, and it registered in my mind. So that's just kind of how I view things with kids. It's like, is you're never going to get through a kid and make them a perfect kid, and like they won't make any mistakes. But as long as you can just plant those good seeds, and one day they're going to think about you and they're going to say, you know what, that's what he was talking about, and this is what the decision I'm going to make. And it could be that you touch one kid who touches another kid who then goes on to touch a million people. You know what I
Right.
mean? So it's like, if you can just touch that one person, then I think that we have to stop focusing on changing the whole world, but just kind of focus on spreading that light through our community, or through right next to us, people around us.
All right. I agree. How old's your daughter?
My daughter, she's 7.
Okay. What's her name?
Elena.
Elena.
Yep. That's my biggest blessing, man. That's why I do it all for.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. No, I've got you're at 7 and mine's 21.
Mm,
I mean, raising kids isn't easy, man.
yeah, I think I read you're finally an empty nester now.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
So my son just went off to college. We dropped him off right after the holidays.
Yeah.
So it's a little quiet around here.
Yeah. A
Not
lot of
bad.
people say parenting is only 18 years, but I'm 25 and I still talk to my mom every day.
Oh, I hope, my daughter still reaches out to me. My son still it's one of those things where you don't know the seeds that you're planting and until later on, till
Right.
they're in their 20s. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay. They
Yeah.
kind of listened,
Yeah. You're like, I did a good job.
Yep, yep. And it's not always like you said, it's not always telling them stuff or telling them what to do. It's by example. When they watch you, they're like,
Right.
all right, that's what my dad did. And he worked really hard to get to where you are today. And that
Yeah.
it's not easy. Tell me about the pressures of being a man.
That's something I say very often to a lot of people around me. I'm not trying to take away that there's like not pressures of a woman or anything when I speak
Hmm.
about the pressures of a man. I'm just speaking on my personal, belief or my personal experience. But I have a lot of clients around probably like their 30s, 40s, even some in their 50s who are, very successful and who give me great advice. But I feel like just one thing that we all have in common is just the pressure, man. The pressure to get up and perform every day, the pressure to take care of your family. And you not only have the right now, but you have the future to think about, and you have job and bills and just the whole life. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not something that I would say is getting to me, but it's saying at 25, I'm really starting to feel it. Like I'm really starting to, feel like I'm coming into a real adult mindset. I'm thinking about life insurance and 401ks and IRAs and stocks and trying to create generational wealth and trying to, not succumb to alcohol and drugs and a whole lot of different, just things that, oof, it's a lot, man.
Yeah. Well, when you start building, you start taking one step and then to the next step and then to the next step. And there are those
Right.
pressures. Do you feel like there's a pressures of, can I really do this? Or is there something else?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I guess for me, I just say, wow, like, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Or should I do this? Or do I have to do this? Or, you know what I mean? Is this
Mhm.
what life is? I just feel like, well, we took a trip to Aruba a couple weeks ago, and that really just changed my perspective on a lot of things, man. That's why I said, my overall goal and my overall plan is big, but then I take a trip like that, and I'm just like, they have minimum. They don't have a whole bunch of clothes and cars, and they just got the beach, a happy
Mhm.
island, and whatever. So it's like it like contradicts almost when it's like you wanna achieve the most and you wanna go all the way and be the best you can be and be financially great and inspire people. But then I take a trip like that and I'm like, man, I could just hang out on this island and not really need for too much. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It was like, which one do I want? But it's a lot of pressure either way because it's like if you're one way or another, you're neglecting a part of
Right.
you. You know what I
Right.
mean?
I think, sitting here talking to you right now, I think if you were to do that, you would last about a month and you would be bored. And
Right,
that's just kind of, listening to your story and listening to what you've done thus far. You're a doer,
right.
right? I know it always looks good. And I'm like, man, I just want to hang out here and I don't want to do anything. But then after a couple weeks, you're like, okay, I'm
Yeah,
ready to get back to it.
back
Ready
to
to
the
do my
mission.
thing. Yeah.
Right.
So travel, you guys like to travel? Do you travel as much as you can or
Yeah, so that was actually my first time out the country. I've been a few places in the States, and we went to Puerto Rico this past year for my birthday. But yeah, that's really something like growing up with a single mom and whatnot. Like she didn't always have the extra funds to take us traveling, or we might have went back home for her Iowa, or we might have went to California to visit my grandpa one time, or we went to the typical Myrtle Beach trips and whatnot. But she didn't always have the extra money to take me traveling like that. So now I think it's something that's very important to me and something that inspires me, it motivates me, it reignites my energy. So it's something
Mhm.
that I've definitely been, as good as the money is at work and as much as like the grind is important, it's like definitely taking those mental breaks and going for those resets has become a very important part of my life.
That's good. Now, what kind of advice would you give somebody, your younger self? If you had to look back in your, 18, 19, 20, and what advice would you give yourself now that
The
you know
advice I
what you
would,
know now?
um the advice that I would give myself, uh, save money. That's one thing. Don't fall victim to the social media or to trying to live that keeping up with the Kardashian life or whatever, which is something I feel like I've done a good job at. But I don't know. I would have told myself to listen because I feel like I went through a lot of stuff that I really didn't have to, sleeping on couches and, the barber school thing and having to move different places and, just having problems financially. Like I just went through so much that I probably didn't have to go through. I always tell people like everybody has a story of struggle, but some people's struggle is like just the cards that they were dealt. This is the life that you were born into. And other people have a struggle to where it's like, you probably could have done things a little bit different and it might have helped you out a little bit more. So I feel like just listening to people who have been here before or people who you respect their opinion, it's like if you're gonna seek advice and if you're gonna talk to people, then really take that advice and, apply it. Um, and just yeah, that's it, man. Just like listen. Honestly, I was never much of a listener when I was younger. I always thought
Hmm.
I knew everything and I thought I had it all figured out. So
Yeah, you're not the only person. I think it's that age, that
right,
you go through and you think you got everything figured out, and then you start to get some years behind you and experience, and you're like, okay, I
right,
didn't. So,
yep,
and that's kind of what I was like saying about, showing the example and
right,
leading by example and stuff like
mhm,
that. I think that's a great idea how you were getting out into the community and helping these kids and cutting their hair, and hopefully you guys will be able to get that back.
for sure. Yeah,
I
I really
think
feel
that's
like
huge.
anything starts with the haircut, whether it's a interview or a first date or a first day of school or a wedding or but especially for kids, man, when you're going to school every day, especially in the social media world where everything's about, looks and, what everybody has and, how you carry yourself. I feel like it's very important for a kid to be able to go to school with a good haircut because like I know you probably feel the same. Like when you get a fresh cut, you're feeling yourself, you're ready to go attack some, goals or, take care of some business. So it's like the same thing with kids, man. And you can
Yep.
just I love when I cut a kid's hair and I just hand them the mirror and they're just like smiling. Like that's one of the best feelings. You got some kids who just like stare at the mirror and they just don't know what's going on. But then you got those one kids that's like, dang, like you just put me back in the game.
Yeah. Plus you've got 30 minutes of their time right
Right.
there in that chair, which
Yep.
is a long time,
Right.
to sit there and kind of build that relationship.
Right.
But no, that's cool. That's cool. Well, you know what? I love your story, and I love your story of your drive to get to where you are right now because like I said, it's not easy, and I'm
Right.
I'm glad you explained the amount of time that it takes to not only just to get your license to do what
Right.
you're doing.
Yeah. And it's crazy because I mean my first year becoming a barber, I literally my license was suspended. I moved to a completely new side of town on the south side. I was raised on the east side, so I moved away from friends and people who I thought would maybe want a discount or maybe would take advantage of my time. So I really, moved over here on a limb, man, and I had just paid off my school. I had to move back to Wilmington after I finished school. I moved to Wilmington for 4 months. And when I graduated, basically they said, congratulations, but you owe us $4,000. Well, obviously at that time, I didn't have $4,000. So I moved to Wilmington for 4 months, had to drive back and forth to Charlotte every weekend. I worked 10-hour days for a landscaping company. And I'll just be out there in the blazing heat every day, just hit my weed eater. You know what I mean? 10 hours a day. So after I, gained the money back, then I went and paid off my school. So boom, there's $4,000. All my money's back gone again. I get out there, I'm painting decks, like pressure washing and painting decks. And next thing you know, I got a couple $1,000s. All right, I'm ready. I'm about to get an apartment. Boom, $2,000 on the apartment just to move in, gone. So I'm back to zero. So at this point, this is when I go to start at my first barbershop. I just moved into a brand new apartment. I have $0 in my pocket. I haven't cut hair in 4 months because I was working in Wilmington after school. So my skill wasn't, quite up to par. And, I had nothing, bro. So uh it was crazy. My first looking back on my books in my first year as a barber, I made $3,000 in my first 6 months as a barber.
Phew.
So it was tough, man. And there was times where I almost gave up, almost went and got a part-time job. I almost, switched careers. I just stuck my head down and I said, no, like I'm gonna get great at this. I'm gonna build a clientele. I'm gonna build a network, build relationships with people. I'm gonna continue to stay true to myself and not do, not trying to take any shortcuts. I'm just gonna focus, man. And this past year, like I said, was a very good year for me. And just to look back, to my first year to now, man, it's I mean, if you really just stick to it and put your mind to something and just immerse yourself fully in it and just dedicate yourself to it, man, anybody can do anything. And I stand by that because when I speak to older barbers or even the owners at No Grease and different people who have been in the industry for a long time, I wasn't supposed to get here this fast. You know what I mean? I wasn't. This was something that maybe a 7 or maybe a 10-year barber would do. Going out on their own and just you know risking it all. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So it definitely goes to show, like, if you put your mind to something, you can do it, and you can do it good.
What'd you do through those lean years to supplement your income?
Man, I'm like I said, I was always just hustling. I'd be painting decks, like I said. I
Yeah.
charge like maybe five. I could make more money painting a deck in a day than I would, a whole month at the barber shop. But I would just be painting decks, man, landscaping, odd jobs, helping
Yeah.
neighbors with, handyman type work, just anything I could do, man.
Yeah. And, and that's a good point to bring up though, that life is long, it's short, but there's a lot of years. And if you would have given up barbering because you made more money painting decks, I don't think after 5 years you would be that happy.
Right.
So I'm glad that you stuck to your trade of what you wanted to do and not get caught up in making that short-term money.
Right. And that's one thing that I had to do in barbering for sure. And they taught us this in barber school and it never made sense to me. But I have this one instructor, Charlie Petty. He's one of the owners of No Grease. And his voice I hear his voice in my head almost every day simply because he just stuck with me, man. Every lesson he taught, every, thing that he, taught us, man, it just stuck with me. But they told us very often, like, money is just a transfer of energy. And they said, stop valuing money, like, value your time. Stop valuing money. And that never made sense to me. When you never really had money, my mom never had money. We never were a family of money. So when you're just like, don't worry about money, it's like, wait, but you need that to eat. You need that to live. Like, you need that. But when you do something out of the goodness of your heart and you do it because it makes you happy and your intention behind it is, pure, then that's where I feel like the money comes from. Because I feel like you said, like, when I went and did the painting decks, I probably wouldn't have been as happy, but the money would have always came because I wasn't worried about the money. I was just doing it because this is what I got to do. You know what I mean?
Man, 100%. 100%. When you go out there chasing the dollar, you're gonna
Hmm.
come up, you're
Short.
not gonna be satisfied, and you're gonna be disappointed. When you go after something with the intent of relationship building and of doing the right thing for people and doing the best, the money always follows.
Yep.
Always
It's a
follows.
it's a very hard concept for someone to grasp who has never
Yep.
had money. It's very hard and it doesn't make sense. And it's like you kind of just got to go through that broke point when you just kind of, okay, I'm gonna just not, like, that's what I had to do. I'm not focused on the money. I'm focused on getting good, building relationships. And when I did that, I did it to a T for a year. I didn't complain about money. I might stress here and there a little bit, but I'm like, a way is gonna be made because I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And when I tell you, just applying that for 2 years, just completely, my life just
Yeah.
changed. My life
Good for
changed.
you. Yeah, because I mean, like with barbers, I know for me personally, I've been going to the same person for the past 9 years because one, I like him, he's a nice guy, and he does a good job, and that's
Right.
all it takes.
Yep.
Now, and going to the barber should be where I sit down. I'm like, "What's up, man? How's it going? Catch up. How's your daughter? Da da da." And that's what it's all about, those relationships. And people
Yep.
keep coming back,
Yep.
but you
Yep.
just
I
got to
would
do
say
good.
probably the hardest part of my barber career so far is when I had to cut one of my clients for his to be laid to rest.
Mm,
That's
man,
something that a lot of people don't think about. But yeah, that comes with the trade too. So that was probably like my hardest situation as far as being a barber.
that's the first
Then
time I've ever heard that. I didn't
Yeah.
even think about that.
Yep. Yep.
Wow. That sucked.
It was a tough situation, but it's part
Yeah.
of the trade, man. It was an honor to be able to send him off like that.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. Well, Noah, where can people find you?
You can find me right here in Charlotte, man. Steel Creek. I'm in the Rivergate Shopping Center. Uh, my Instagram, Gully the Barber, at Gully the Barber. So I have my booking link on there. You can find all my work. Um, my website. It's got my address, my phone number. So that's the easiest way to contact me. I would say is Instagram, Gully the Barber.
Perfect. I appreciate
Yeah.
your time, man.
I appreciate you, man. It's very nice talking to you. Hopefully we could do this again sometime in the future.
Yeah, I want to watch you grow.
For sure, man.
All
Nice
right.
meeting you, man.
Nice meeting you. Thank you very much for listening to this episode of Beyond Grit with your host, me, Robert Young. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, rate, and review. Tell somebody about it. You can find this podcast on all major podcast platforms, and be sure to tune in every Wednesday for another exciting success story of somebody going beyond grit. Until then, take care.